Welcome from the deep. I am Mike the Finder.
And I am Book of Brett.
And today we are going to be doing our third installment of the What We Watched in 2023 for March.
The third try of the third installment.
Yes, we've been having some technical difficulties, which makes this just a whole ball of fun to just deal with 3 different times and starting this and doing it and just not ruining my mood and driving me into the mental institution at all.
It's basically a script now.
Let me get into some housekeeping before we do all this. If you're just watching this on YouTube, make sure you go check us out on your favorite podcast app like Spotify and or Apple Podcasts, as we put all of our podcasts over there in audio form only, in case you want to hear this without our crappy faces on it. And if you're only listening to this, make sure you go check out our YouTube page, which is youtube.com/@FromTheDeep, where you can find all sorts of content that does not make it over to the podcast side of things. So,
you know, not both of us have bad faces. Look at me, bitch. I'm beautiful.
See, no. You
just so
no. I will not allow this to become a thing. No.
You just soft folded in like that, though.
God damn it. So anyway, today, we're going to be talking about what we watched. Now, if you watched last month's episode, that was like an hour and a half, so we didn't want to make a super long episode like that again. So we are changing the format on this yet again. And the way we're changing it this month is we're just cherry picking some of our favorite stuff that we watched this month. Now, a lot of my stuff is coming from theatrical screenings this month. I don't know about you, but I went to the theater a lot this month.
Like 2 of mine are from the theater. But I also have been on a sci-fi kick this month. And
yes.
Sci-fi is not something we see very often in the theaters. But yeah, so I've been on a sci-fi kick, and so so a lot of mine were from streaming.
Yeah, so just to,
Sorry, I'm so sorry to interrupt. Shut up! I fed you already!
You really shouldn't talk to your wife like that.
Well, I mean, she's just over here. She just sits over here making cat noises, and I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense.
Ha 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 ha. Okay, so let's just get right into this. The very first thing that I watched this month was Brightburn from 2019. This is essentially Superman, but evil. 2 people find a kid abandoned in the woods near a weird spaceship rock meteorite thing, and decide, hey, I'm going to raise that as my own, like one does, I guess.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. I bring every feral creature home. It's a good idea. You should do it. There's a raccoon living in my shed right now that I'm probably just going to take inside tonight and cuddle.
Okay, that's not a joke about the raccoon part. I'm hoping the cuddle part's a joke, but...
his name's Ricardo.
Ricardo the raccoon. Oh, that's terrible. Okay, so anyway, the idea here is phenomenal. The execution, however, is not. I was really excited to watch this, even though I've waited, 3 or 4 years to watch this. It's been on my watch list for a long time. And I had heard good things. You can see here on my Letterboxd that a lot of the people that I know like this. And that's fair. I just personally thought that the idea is much stronger than the execution. There's some gore in this, and it's pretty damn good. But all in all, I just don't think this is deep enough. It's shallow as a puddle. I would have liked to have seen this go way deeper into his evilness. I also would love to see a bit more backstory on where he comes from, who he is, why he landed on Earth. All of that stuff is not even touched on even at all. And I know that's not quite the point, but it just left me feeling like I wanted more out of it. And obviously, I don't think we're ever getting a sequel or a prequel or anything more from this, because I don't think this did nearly as well as they wanted it to. But this is essentially Superman, but evil, which is a killer idea. I just wish they would have gone deeper into it, because it just doesn't feel like there's enough. The kid that plays him is phenomenal. He feels super evil when he needs to. He feels super naive at the beginning when he needs to. And I would even say that Elizabeth Banks is not all that terrible in this. I'm not generally a huge fan of Elizabeth Banks, but she's actually kind of okay in this. And Roy...
his mask looks like Zoidberg.
It does. It absolutely looks like Zoidberg. And that's one of the things that I have an issue with. It's not scary. And I guess it doesn't really necessarily need to be scary. But when you're making this kid like go around, torture people, kill people, all of that stuff, it should be scary. And his mask is just fucking dumb. It's just
I'm
dumb.
going for a scuttle.
Yeah,
That was
and
a terrible Zoidberg, but everybody
it was
knows
a very
what I'm
bad
talking about.
Zoidberg. But the point is this is just not nearly as strong as I wanted it to be. I ended up giving Brightburn a 6 out of 10. I wanted more out of this, and there is not enough to satiate the awesome idea that is in here. It's just not enough. So 6 out of 10 for Brightburn.
I often confuse the title of this with the superhero movie where Will Smith battles Chris Rock.
I believe
that was a little late on the topical aspect, but it was better than
over a year.
Sheer silence you gave it, you jackass.
Yeah, I don't know about all that. No, but topical humor is good when it's over a year late.
It's not my fault Will Smith isn't slapping more people more frequently. Okay?
Right. He definitely should be. It did wonders for his career. Thank God we don't see him around that much anymore. Anyway,
Thank God.
So let's move over to Brett's first watch of the month.
Yeah. Brett's time to shine. Okay, do it. Okay, they're counting on you. Okay, get it. Okay, I'm ready. Okay, the first movie I chose was In the Mouth of Madness. I said that like in wasn't part of the title. It's In the Mouth of Madness. The movie is about Sam Neill, who is an insurance agent, and he sniffs out people trying to commit insurance fraud on a large scale. And he's basically tasked with tracking down this author, and him and this girl from this company end up tracking him down to this town that only exists because the author wrote about it in one of his books, which is part of a series that has basically been making people go absolutely bonkers. I'm going to read my my Letterboxd review first.
Okay.
I said, an awesome sci-fi horror from the master of them all, John Carpenter. Well written, creative, mind-bending, and of course gory. This fun and beautifully shot ride is definitely one I'll be watching again. I gotta say, this might be my favorite John Carpenter movie. I've got to go back and watch the other ones that I've watched by him, notably Halloween and The Thing.
Yeah.
However, Halloween I am familiar enough with to know that I like this one more. I'm not going to say it's a better movie, but I like it more because this is way more up my alley than Halloween is. Now, with that said, before anybody comes out of the woodwork and before Mike's head fucking explodes all over the camera lens, I like Halloween, okay? I like Halloween. I'd even say I love Halloween. I watch it every year for Halloween. But it is impossible to deny the level of detail that goes into this simply because of the experience behind him going into this movie. The Thing I've not watched recently enough, but and that one I'm actually more wanting to watch because that's definitely more of the sci-fi horror pull, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
But this is sci-fi. This is barely horror, just enough to be considered horror. It's supernatural, and that's the trifecta for me, right there. I mean, you're gonna see all these movies. I almost all these movies are sci-fi in one way or another. That I'm going to be doing on this episode. So keep that in mind. I've been on a sci-fi kick lately, but this for me was like going back, was what I would think for you is like going back and watching old slasher movies. Like something about the 90s was so goddamn awesome. Like the cinematography, the camera work, the styles that inevitably bled from one creative project to another simply because creatives are watching other people's work. I got big Ninth Gate vibes off of this movie.
Yes.
it's
Ninth
definitely
Gate has Mouth of Madness vibes.
yeah. I guess if we're going chronologically and not in order of quality, yeah, we'll go. We'll do what you said. But yeah, so it's definitely got that in there. And the Ninth Gate is one of those movies that I really love, even though I can see a lot of its imperfections. But a lot of that just comes down to Roman Polanski's style. He's got this style that like it feels. I don't want to say indie, but homegrown, like high budget homegrown filmmaking is kind of the vibe I've always gotten from Roman Polanski. It feels very raw a lot of the time. And I feel like we get a lot of that here. A lot of that has to do with just the technology that went into making it, but I digress. All in all, I loved In the Mouth of Madness. I gave it 10 out of 10 stars. I did, or
Wow.
I think I gave it. I think I gave it 10 out of 10. It may have been 8 out of 10. It was 8 out of 10.
I'm seeing it here. It's an 8 out of 10 for you. Yeah.
I gave it 8 out of 10 because it's not perfect. But for me, it's damn near there. Sam Neill is just phenomenal in this movie, just like he is in pretty much everything I've ever seen him in, which is 3 movies. So but I really like Sam Neill. I really like him. I think he's a very versatile actor. He is apparently from New Zealand, which I spent up until I watched this thinking he was British.
Yeah, me too.
Not because I, confuse the accents, but because he doesn't really seem to have a New Zealand accent. You pick it up a couple times here and there, in this movie especially. There's a couple of consonants where you pick it up, but yeah, but like I said, I loved In the Mouth of Madness.
Yeah, this is something I haven't seen in a really long time. I have the Scream Factory edition of this, and I really loved it the last time I watched it. It's weird because I don't have this logged on Letterboxd here, but I really, really liked this the last time I seen it, but it has been a long ass time. So
yeah, you should give it another shot. It's pretty damn good.
Yeah. Okay, so my next watch was the new Children of the Corn. Like I said, a lot of my watches this month were in theaters. I don't know why Letterboxd has this labeled as a 2020 release.
Can we do a poll of how many people knew this existed before?
Well, yeah, it definitely feels
This
like
episode came out?
no one knows that this exists. And if you look at the ratings, the collective ratings on Letterboxd, it definitely leans almost all towards the negative.
Is that a 1.6? Okay. Oh my God.
It's got an average rating of 1.6.
Wait, how do you get an average of 1.6 when everything goes in by like halves and wholes?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
All right.
I'm not sure. But it says one fan. There's no way. What does that mean? I don't even know what that means. It has one.
Yeah, and I bet you any amount of money that's the director equivalent of like liking your own post on Facebook. I guarantee you that person worked on the movie in one
amazing.
capacity. Just some like lowly PA that it's like their first credit. I need it to do well.
Well, when I saw this in theaters, there were only a few other people in the theater. It was in what can only be described as the smallest theater I have ever been in.
How many of them walked out?
In a multiplex. Actually, what's funny is somebody did walk out at the apex, like at the very, very climax of the story. 2 people walked out.
That's like me when I went to go see Star Wars Episode 1 in 3D. When even the pod races didn't look good, I just got up and got the fuck out.
Well, this is from director Kurt Wimmer. I don't know what else he has done. I guess I could pull that up real quick. Oh, well, that would explain it. Equilibrium. That's why. Is that what's happening here? It is. Okay. So now I just figured it out. This has 2 individual releases on Letterboxd, which is why the other one said 2020. Either way, they're the same movie, I believe. Yeah, this is just labeled twice. Either way, this has a 2.1 instead of a 1.6, but still, either way, this is still a very low rated movie. So this is essentially a remake of the original Children of the Corn film, or the book, which I obviously have not read because I'm not a big reader. Is that a shock to anybody?
No.
No.
Books are. Oh my
Books
god,
books are the devil.
they're,
Anyway,
they're so scary. Have you seen how they break them up into chapters? What the fuck is that?
So this is essentially a complete remake of everything that you remember from the original Children of the Corn, except Isaac, I think is his name. That's right.
Yep.
Is that right? Isaac has been replaced by a 12-year-old girl, and
Because
and I have-
they needed to do that.
well, I have no. Let me just say this: I have no problems with that on the surface, other than the girl playing that character is just awful, and she's not scary even a little bit.
So I want to clarify. My issue there is not that it's a girl.
Right.
My issue there is that it's completely unfaithful to the source material.
See, I have not read the book, so I don't really know.
Well, it's still Isaac, if
Right.
I'm not mistaken. And if you're gonna remake a movie, when you remake a movie where the gender plays no like predominant role, and you go about changing it, but you're saying that you're remaking it, it just feels like you're doing it. This goes back to what I've said I said this on a lot of episodes on Book of Brett. I don't have an issue with different genders, different nationalities being enrolled. I do not give a shit about that. Like, everybody's up in arms about The Little Mermaid. Like, I don't fucking care about The Little Mermaid being black. Who gives a shit? But it just feels like this move to just do it just because you can.
Yeah.
And that to me is like, it's not that it's like, oh, it's a girl. I don't give a shit about that. It just feels like you're doing it for no reason, and almost like maybe the movie had no other redeeming quality, and so to like bring a little bit more into the mainstream. I don't know. I mean, you can cut all that if you want to. It's one of those things that feels like you just did it to do it, and it played absolutely no role in the overall.
That's what I was
going to
say. It doesn't actually change anything other than Isaac from the original is creepy because you can't tell if he's 40 and have convinced these kids to follow him, or if he's also a 10-year-old, with a weirdo, older, weird body. And so it's creepy because you don't know where this guy's coming from. But none of that is the reason I hated this. The reason I hated this is because there is a literal fucking corn monster in this movie. What is subtext and not literal in the original movie, and I'm assuming the book is very, very fucking literal in this movie. Imagine Groot, but made of corn. That's who they worship in this movie.
I'm Groot.
and it's just, dude, it's terrible.
Gorn!
It
Gorn! That's his name.
It is terrible, and I was literally laughing out loud inside of the theater when I was watching this. And then at the very spoiler alert a little bit, there is a jump scare at the very last 2 seconds of this movie where the corn monster jumps out and goes blah. Like, it's just
like Voldemort in that like one flash.
Yes. I will just say this is the worst movie I've seen all year so far. I despised this, and if I go back to my original thing here, I gave Children of the Corn 2023 a 4 out of 10. I hated Children of the Corn 2023. Hated it.
But how do you give it a 4 out of 10? If you hated it that much, how do you give it a 4 out of 10?
I have no reason. Do you want me to read my review?
Yes, because now I need to know why it gets 4.
The title of this is "Don't Be a Giant Corn Monster." Don't be a giant corn monster. Don't be a giant corn. God damn it! So my Letterboxd review here is: I actually had a small amount of hope for this, but sadly, this is just like all the other remakes out there right now. Disappointing. There are moments in this that are so stupid, I was literally laughing out loud in the theater. Every character is underdeveloped. All of the dialogue is terrible. Awful CGI gore, and the entire script is so poorly written that I couldn't help but hate it. It really feels like a first-year film student wrote this, but it was their first draft. The moments that are supposed to be full of tension fall flat, and the moments that are supposed to be scary fail. It's beautiful to look at outside of the CGI fires and gore, but that's not enough to save it, which is why it's a 4. The girl that plays Eden just isn't believable at all and really made this whole thing feel worse than it actually is. The mass burial scene is pretty dope, but it also falls kind of flat. This is so terrible, multiple people walked out at the climax. Oh well, hopefully the next one will be better. So it's beautiful. It's a very well shot movie. The people that filmed it and lit it and graded it, all of that, all the technical things are right here. But everything else is bad. And I mean bad. So I ended up giving Children of the Corn 2023 a 4 out of 10. It has the technical chops, but everything else is terrible. And that goddamn corn monster. Oh my God. I have never read the book, so I don't know what the book says about the corn monster and he who walks behind the rose or whatever it is. This movie takes it very literally, and it skips over all of the her convincing all of the children and stuff to like kill all the parents, and it really focuses on them locking the parents up and burying them alive, and it's just, dude, it's just bad. I really hate
Have you considered that the Make-A-Wish Foundation had a hand in this?
maybe the girl that played what was her name? Anyway, maybe the main girl was a Make-A-Wish kid, and her whole thing was, hey, I want to be in Children of the Corn.
That could be an actual respirator on her face.
That poor dying girl's last wish was to be in the worst movie of 2023. Oh my God, that poor girl. Oh,
who do we get to write it? I don't know. Let's do 2 birds with 1 stone. Get another Make-A-Wish kid to write it.
Well, and Kurt Wimmer, the guy that did this, I'm sorry, Kurt, you just made the worst movie. He's also the guy that did Ultraviolet. I don't know if you saw Ultraviolet with Mila Jovovich.
I just want to brush his hair for him, though. Why do I have this why am I so compelled to just...
Yeah, that's weird, right? So anyway, don't go see Children of the Corn, especially in theaters. I don't even know if it's still in theaters. I would be shocked if it was. But yeah, it's really, really bad. So Children of the Corn 2023, 4 out of 10.
Cool. So recommended.
I have to see before we move on. Hang on. Oh my God, it didn't even make $500,000. Oh my God. Oh my God. Now I need to know what the budget was. Oh, wow. 10 million according to IMDb. Oh, dude. Ouch. That's fucking nuts. Look, Children of the Corn, The Final Sacrifice made 7 million.
And yet you still gave it 4 out of 10.
Well, again, the technical aspects of this movie are very good. Okay, so let's move on to Brett's next watch for the month.
Okay, so my next watch for the month was Knock at the Cabin by M. Night Shyamalan. And this is new on streaming, I believe.
Oh, it's on streaming now. Oh, okay.
Yes. Starring Dave Bautista and Rupert Grint, and honestly, a really good cast other than the 2 of them. They're just the 2 that I know.
Other than the 2 of them.
One of which doesn't stick around for too long. But no, the whole cast is great. It was probably, I would say, one of M. Night Shyamalan's best movies recently.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So Knock at the Cabin is basically, is it Knock at the Cabin? Yeah,
Knock at the Cabin. Yeah.
I keep wanting to see, I keep thinking it's like Knock at the Cabin Door or something. Knock at the Cabin.
That's because there's 1,000 other titles with cabin and knock.
So anyway, but it's about a group of 4 people that show up at a cabin where a gay couple and their daughter are vacationing, and they basically tell them that the world is going to end unless one of them kills each other. In the meantime, the group of 4 people will kill each other. Now, when you look at it at face value like that, it's like, well, then everybody's just dying. It actually plays out in a pretty fun way, and it is interesting from beginning to end, in my opinion. The cinematography is very good. I think this is a much better example of what M. Night Shyamalan is capable of. Obviously, we have The Sixth Sense. Split was really good. So we do have examples of him being a good director. We just have so many others of him not even being a bad director, but being like not the greatest writer, because he writes everything too. And I believe this was written and directed by him. Yeah.
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
But it was adapted. I believe there's an original book. I think it's a full.
So was
I think
Old,
it's
and
a
he
full
fucked that
book.
one up
Well,
too.
that was
so.
a graphic novel, and there's a full book here for him to pull from. So.
Okay, yeah. So there was actually an ending for him to go off of. Okay. So if you wanna know what I'm talking about, go check out our review of Old. But let's jump over. Well, let's talk a little bit more about it, because my reviews are not going to make much sense. Basically, and huge spoiler alerts. We basically find out that the whole time it has been true, that the apocalypse has been happening, and that God has been doing these terrible things to the earth. I'm wording it that way on purpose because, and so they do have to make these decisions, and eventually they do make a decision. There are huge foreshadowing clues as to who's gonna have what happen to them as far as the couple goes. If you're paying attention, it's pretty noticeable from pretty much the minute that they get tied up. But going on to my review, I'm going to just say it right now. This is going to be a trigger warning for religious people. However, I don't give a shit, so I'm going to read this anyway. It's way better than I expected it to be, but by the end, I'm left with the same feeling I had when I read the Old Testament. God's a fucking psycho. The performances, the cinematography, the writing, all the elements of a good movie are here, and it's nice to see M. Night Shyamalan not go with his typical formula. However, the whole thing is straight out of the Bible, with God basically testing people's faith by putting them in horrific circumstances in the name of belief. Seriously, what the fuck's wrong with that guy? And this is, again, I'm not like... I'm not speaking for Mike here. I'm not going to say that I'm speaking for Mike here. If you have anything about this that you hate that I say, come at me. I do not give a shit, because this is a prime example of what people are always making fun of religion for, and this movie is straight out of that. It is literally the second they do the horrible thing they've got to do, God goes, okay. Like, that's it. That's it. He's stuck. And mind you, none of these people come back. Like, nobody's resurrected from the dead. Millions of people are now gone. Millions of people are now grieving. Hundreds of millions of lives are now broken, and it's all because he just wanted to see if they do it. Two random people. I'm just like, what is happening right now?
That's definitely part of the movie that I did not focus on when like reviewing this movie, the religious side and how absolutely insane it is. But yeah, everything you're saying is correct. Yes.
It's not quirky or awkward or out of character. It's psychotic. And I really it's so psychotic that I genuinely cannot figure out if he was using it to just tell a story, or if this was actually religious satire, because again, like you said, you didn't notice it as much. It was not like
well,
an
it's
angle.
not that I didn't notice it. It's just not the thing I focused on when thinking about this movie.
Dude, out loud while I'm watching this movie at home, when they started saying that everything was stopping, out loud I went, no fucking way.
Well, I can't pull it up because it's in a different window here. Well, I guess I can. Hang on. If I put that there. Yeah, here we go. This says M. Night Shyamalan's Knock at the Cabin, adapted from the novel The Cabin at the End of the World. The Cabin at the End of the World and its big screen adaptation. The Knock at the Cabin movie ending is way darker than the book. That's what
Interesting.
That's what this says. So
Okay.
keep in mind he didn't write the whole thing, but I did hear that he had changed the ending a little bit to make
Yeah.
it a little more M. Night Shyamalan-esque. So yeah, this is adapted, so you have to keep that in mind. This is not an original idea from him. So I like I said, it's just not the thing I focused on. But
It was good. I liked it. I did like it. I just at the end I could not help but think that maybe the villain wasn't in the cabin the whole time.
that's a fucking great line. That should be on the back of the fucking box for this movie. What a great line. Wow.
Oh, God. Anyway, all right. Well, now that I'll be burning in hell, why don't you go ahead and carry us on
Why don't you give us your rating on this real quick first?
Oh yeah. My rating on it was I gave it 6 out of 10. I was really gonna give this 8 out of 10, and then the ending happened, and I was like, okay, buddy, okay, whatever you say, Em.
Well,
to be fair, I would have given it what is it 7 stars had I know I could do halves. So I would have given this
that's
a
what
7
I
out of 10.
I gave it a 7 out of 10 because
I would have given
very
this a 7
strong.
out of 10.
I really like the ending too. I thought the ending was heartfelt and it didn't feel stupid and like M. Night Shyamalan trying to like outwit the audience or anything like that. It's not a huge surprise that everything is real, but it's also like, oh, wow, this is actually happening. So it's not a huge twist, but it is kind of still his style, and it's just really, it's really good. I love the ending.
And they do a really good job of sowing seeds of doubt up until really the second or third death, I would say.
For sure. Yeah.
Because after the first one, you're still sitting there going like, okay, they could have programmed this. Like I was basically on what's his name, Eric, the more assertive character. He definitely, I was kind of like on his side for a good majority of it. But I'm also a cynical sinner, so what the fuck do I know?
All right. Well, my next movie for the month was Inside with Willem Dafoe. This is essentially, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce the director's name here.
I'm sorry, the way you said that really makes it seem like a Willem Dafoe deepfake porn.
Well, this movie is about an art thief going into a really high-end apartment and trying to steal multi-million-dollar paintings.
I didn't know that. I don't know anything about this movie.
Okay, when he does so, all of the security measures go into place and locks him inside of an apartment, inside the apartment, I guess. And the rest of the movie is him trying to deal with the fact that he is locked inside of this multi-million-dollar apartment with nothing but high-end art, no food, no water. All the water gets shut off. All the food has been eaten. And it is essentially kind of a survival movie inside of an apartment. And it's a really interesting idea. Me too. I was really excited when I saw the previews for this because this felt like a really interesting, new, fresh idea. And then you throw Willem Dafoe in it, and it's just incredible. Who can
do no wrong.
There is no one else in this movie other than the owner of the apartment that makes some stuff and some flashback scenes and stuff like that. He carries the entire movie. Now, I was as excited as I was to go see this. When I saw it in theater, there were 2 other people in the theater in a very, very small theater in the multiplex. And this does not scream big theater release. This is not a movie I feel like you need to see with other people in the same way that we said like 65 or Scream 6, stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, and he's done stuff before like the Florida Project and some other stuff like that that's, way more indie and way more character driven and just like better than his like, I don't know, his big budget stuff. But he's always been really good at choosing films. Like, And so every time that I see him, my interest gets piqued, and especially with this idea, I won't go super in depth with the whole thing because you haven't seen it. This is still in theaters. It's still brand new. I don't want to spoil this for anything, but what I will say is this is entirely too wrapped up in the surviving side of things and less what I thought it was going to be about, because the trailer makes this seem like it's going to be sort of Infinity Pool-esque, where it's super artsy and super like high-minded and kind of, you know, like elevated, for lack of a better term. And it's not really like that at all, and maybe that's my fault for going into it expecting that, but maybe on the flip side of that, it's the trailer's fault for making it come off like it's going to be a bit more high-minded and about him losing his mind than it actually is.
That's the vibe I got from the trailer.
With that being said, there is definitely parts in this that are artsy and sort of high-minded and all of the stuff that the trailer makes it seem, but it's way too wrapped up in the whole surviving, trying to get water and food sort of a thing, which is fine. It's just not what I was expecting going into this. And so I rated this a little bit lower than I expected to going into it. I gave Inside 6 out of 10. I really wanted to love this a lot more than I did, but it just gets too off track from the, for lack of a better term, character study that I actually wanted. It is, I mean, there are parts in this where he just goes long periods of time without really saying much of anything and just trying to dig his way out and like all that kind of stuff, collecting water, all that stuff, which is cool. It's just not what I was expecting from this movie. So I ended up giving Inside a 6 out of 10.
Well, Willem Dafoe would be very upset with you.
Well, I will say he's fucking great in this.
I want you to
phenomenal.
sit there and really envision Willem Dafoe just looking at you with a disappointed look on his face. It would look something like this.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, Willem. It's good. It's not great. So that's what I would tell.
What is that How I Met Your Mother episode? Willem Dafoe.
I think that every time I see his name now. Willem Dafoe. Okay, so let's move on to Brett's next watch.
So the next movie that I chose to do for this was Kong Skull Island, because I am a basic movie going bitch.
You are a very like popcorn, big budget sort of a guy generally. So this does not surprise me. That's not an insult. It's just different preferences when we're sitting down to watch movies.
It wasn't an insult. And
I know it felt like it, but
so insulting.
That's not how I meant it. I just meant you have a tendency to like bigger budget.
I do
popcorn movies.
God, I hate that you're right, but you're right. I hate that you're right, but you are. But again, that's because this is. I would put King Kong in the realm of sci-fi, and big popcorn type of shit is what you kind of tend to get with sci-fi, because it's outlandish and experimental in its nature.
Yeah.
But I'm also, we've talked about it before, I'm a big fan of period pieces, and even more a bigger fan of epic period pieces, or as I like to refer to them as epic periods. I'm a big fan of epic periods.
That's disgusting. That's a short right there. It's just you saying that for a minute straight.
Cut it, send it. But no, and this was actually my first King Kong movie. I've never really gotten into the Titan ever.
Wow.
Ever. Because when I was younger and I tried to watch them, I mean, they're so obviously miniatures that when I was younger, I couldn't really appreciate it. This actually, we'll get back into the movie, but this actually sent me down a big monster rabbit hole. I actually ended up watching the one out of Korea, South, don't be stupid. And it was called like Yongira or something like that. And I found myself actually enjoying it, like actually liking it. And it's from like the 60s. And it's done with miniatures and everything, but I could appreciate it this time. And the review I put for Kong Skull Island just simply says, These sons of bitches made me care about King Kong.
Well, you're supposed to. That's sort of the whole
Yeah,
thing
well,
behind King
that's-
Kong.
That's the thing. So I started doing some digging, and it wasn't always the whole thing behind King Kong.
Well, if you've never seen the original King Kong movie, no.
Right. Originally, he was supposed to be, the American version of Godzilla. He's just a monster wreaking havoc. And I found out that over time, up until the last 20, 30 years or so, that he was, a monster. And then within recent decades, they started giving him this almost compassionate side, or at least this side that you could empathize with and you could actually latch onto emotionally. And that, I gotta say, I was not expecting that. I was not expecting to go into this and be rooting for King Kong. But seriously, let's be clear, it did not take long for me to go, God damn, people are terrible. Because within the first 20 minutes of this movie, they're dropping seismic charges and there's shots of animals scurrying. And so you're supposed to hate the people from the very, very beginning of this movie.
Yeah.
And so it sets up this whole thing of, psychologically, you're already against the people. And so it's very, very easy for them to kind of, push King Kong in there as the compassionate character that you're rooting for. I also did not know that the whole Hollow Earth theory was a whole thing behind King Kong. I don't know if that's always been a thing, but I know that it was done for this one, and then Godzilla versus King Kong I also watched, and it was a part of that. The whole
that one's a sequel to this, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's it's technically a direct sequel to the Godzilla movie they made after they made King Kong, if I'm not mistaken. The whole
Is it not a sequel from the 2014 Godzilla, the one with Bryan Cranston in it?
It might be. I don't know. I didn't really get into Godzilla too much. I started getting into King Kong because I had a character that I cared about.
I'll be honest. My kaiju knowledge is straight up old school stuff, and I typically avoid the newer stuff. So,
I really liked this. I really, really liked it. It's a ton of fun. It scratched that sci-fi itch, but it also, more than that, opened me up and made me appreciate the older kaiju stuff, because I'm sitting here going okay, if I enjoyed the Korean kaiju, surely I'm going to like the Japanese.
Dude, you should watch the original Godzilla. There is something about the original Godzilla movie that is so appealing and
yeah.
Dude, it's just so damn good.
Yeah.
But
like I said, man, it just the acting was good, but you're gonna expect that from a movie with this kind of budget. Really, honestly, a movie with this kind of budget, the only thing that can really fuck it up is the story. And I say that because obviously you include human error and you can fuck stuff up that way. The casting can be off. They can cut corners with shit. But usually with a movie of this budget, they've got the budget to populate the areas that are important with the right people. The problem is that with a movie like King Kong, it's very, very easy to screw the story up by relying on the legacy that's already been set up before it. And even that, I thought they did really well. I thought it was great. I loved it. I'm going to start getting into more of the kaiju stuff because, like I said, when I was younger, not as big of a sci-fi fan, but I'm starting to realize recently, and this is a very recent development, I'm starting to get into sci-fi the way you get into horror.
Well, I will say, I just looked up the box office for this. The budget was $185 million.
Mm-hmm.
And the worldwide box office was $566 million. So it did.
That's insane.
Very well.
Yeah, that's insane. But again, dude, that's what I'm saying is it's very easy for a movie to this. This is the type of movie where you can look at the budget and go okay, if you haven't seen it, it's very easy to look at the budget and go, well, yeah, it was a big budget movie. It's, it's got, a lot of action, but it's got character to it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there is character development. There is exposition without an abundance of it for people that, like, maybe are just now coming into the whole Kong, kaiju universe. I thought it was really, really well done. The Godzilla versus Kong was really well done too, but this one was much, much better.
Well, if only they'd get Brie Larson out of there, I might be willing to watch it. Okay.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
All right, so moving on. The next movie is a movie we both saw this month, which is Cocaine Bear. If you did not see our trailer reaction to this a few months ago, I will go ahead and link that up top here right now, as well as down in the description. This is a movie that both Brett and I think, had realistic expectations going into.
Oh, yeah.
This is from director, in quotes, Elizabeth Banks.
Why are you quoting? You don't like her.
I don't. No.
I'm
quoting because her other movies, other than Cocaine Bear, are Pitch Perfect 2, the flop-ass Charlie's Angels movie that came out a couple years ago, and not the one you're thinking of from the 90s, the one that no one knew existed other than 4 people.
She is fun as an actress in some movies.
Yeah, she's okay as an actress.
Yeah.
I really like her in 30 Rock. She's pretty good in the Hunger Games movies. She's done some stuff that's okay. She's actually really funny in Wet Hot American Summer and the sequel. But other than that, Cocaine Bear is from director Elizabeth Banks.
Chelsea Handler. They just look alike.
That's really rude. I'm not doing that because she's a female. I'm doing it because I don't like Elizabeth Banks generally. But this is surprisingly fun. Like,
yes.
The fact that we both went into this with realistic expectations and ended up kind of enjoying it more than we thought we would really says something. I think that there is some really, really good gore in here. There is a lack of plot for the most part. There's a lot of people wandering in the woods. There's a lot of downfalls to this, but more than anything, this is fun. Like, I literally can't ask for anything else from a movie called Cocaine Bear other than be slightly fun, and at that, it is successful.
I do love the attempt at giving it a synopsis when the title is the synopsis.
Yeah.
Like, literally, the synopsis of the movie is a bear does cocaine.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, and it's based off a real thing that happened, and they really play loose with the inspired by true events thing.
In real life, it just dropped dead.
That's why they don't say based on, and they use the words very specifically inspired by.
No, it's the whole thing is a ton of fun. Know what you're getting into going into it. I went in, Brittany and I watched it in a theater full of people, which was surprising considering that we just watched it this weekend.
Dude, my theater was full too, and I saw it 2 weeks ago, and it was completely full.
I don't know what some of you think you're getting into when you go and watch Cocaine Bear. But the people that were in my theater, I don't think they knew what they were in for. I don't know if they were like, it's based on true events, I'm going to go watch a fucking documentary or something. But this isn't that. And I say that because even Brittany pointed out that we were the ones laughing the hardest. And it wasn't at the cocaine jokes, although those are funny. It was at, like, the way people got killed. Like, when he gets shot from behind, we were laughing our asses off.
Yeah.
And it was just, dude, the whole thing is, it's funny. I went into it really thinking, okay, they could, the cheese is going to be there. It's gonna be there.
It's built
regardless.
in with the name, even.
Yes,
so.
It is built in. However, are they gonna go cheese with the humor, or are they gonna go a little bit more raw with the humor? And it's definitely darker humor, but dude, it was so much fun.
Yeah, and well, I will also say it's way gorier than I was expecting it to be.
Yeah.
And I actually think that they could have gone even more so in that direction. I think that if you had made this a straight up horror movie, it would have fell flat. If you had made it a straight up comedy, it also would have fell flat. It's a little bit of both. And I've seen some other reviewers here on YouTube and stuff like that say that this is very sitcom-y with the jokes and stuff like that. I don't think that's a problem. I just don't. I think that if you know what you're going into with this movie, and you have realistic expectations of what a movie called Cocaine Bear in 2023, you're going to have a good time. I don't think this is a masterpiece. This is by no means a big high-minded movie. It's a movie about a bear that does cocaine and goes around and killing people. And he gets a taste for blood and wants to kill people. Like that's all it is.
I got to say, I never thought I would enjoy seeing children do cocaine as much as I enjoyed seeing children do cocaine. That when they find it, I was like, there's no way they're gonna actually show that. I was like, that's like something I would write if I were watching this. And then just a spoonful of cocaine, and out loud in the theater I went, they did it.
Yeah, at that part, Nicole went to the bathroom. When she got back, she was like, what did I miss? And I said, children did cocaine. That's what you missed in this movie.
It's great.
But yeah,
it's great.
Go into this with realistic expectations. Yeah. It's nothing crazy good. It's no masterpiece. It's from Elizabeth Banks. I think that this is just me guessing. I feel like this is like, I don't know if she came up with the idea to do this. I would be very doubtful if that was the case. But I feel like she got softballed this, and this is a success. And we talked about this in the trailer. This is a success because it's called Cocaine Bear. This is not a success because it's a great movie, or because Elizabeth Banks directed it, or because Kerry Russell is in this, or Ray. What fucking? I'm blanking on his name. Liotta. Thank you.
Liotta.
Or because Ray Liotta is in this. It's sadly his last movie. But this is not a success for any of those reasons. And Elizabeth Banks was really softballed a really big budget success with this movie. But it is worth seeing if you like shitty movies.
Yep. The demos are built into this one.
Yes, for sure. So I went ahead and gave this a 5 out of 10. What did you give Cocaine Bear?
I gave Cocaine Bear a 4 out of, or I give it an 8 out of 10.
Wow, that's way higher than I gave it. Yeah.
I gave it an 8 out of 10. I loved it. It was fun. I knew exactly what I was getting into. It was so, I laughed at all the right moments. Did you hear that? I worded that like I fucking accomplished something.
Yeah.
No.
Congratulations.
No. Good for Brett. But no, I thought it was funny. I knew exactly what it was. This is another one of those movies that I've said recently is it knows what it is. It invested in the right areas, and I think it did it successfully. I liked it.
Yeah.
I'm going to be buying this.
Really? I don't think I'm adding this to the collection, but it is fun. No.
This is going into the collection. This is going.
Okay.
In fact, I'm going to start a new section to my collection that will include this and Half Baked.
You're just gonna get really crappy comedies for each drug.
Yeah. Just
we're gonna have
really
LSD
bad
fish next time.
I cannot wait for my mom to visit.
Piranhas on LSD. Oh,
is that a movie?
We just wrote a movie, Brett. We just wrote a movie.
Wait. Is that the title of the movie, or is that a suggestion?
Acid fish.
Acid fish.
It's a #1 record.
Piranhacid.
So, okay, moving on.
So, for my last movie of this presentation, I did Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Fucking finally.
That is not the movie title. That is the description of the weekend I had.
Before you go any further, look at this. The reviewed thing is usually an eyeball on Letterboxd, and on this one, it's a googly eye.
That's awesome.
I just had to point that out.
So this is a movie I went into very reluctantly. So I have what is arguably a very bad habit of hearing a movie get super duper hyped up.
And being a contrarian about it.
And being a contrarian about it. That
Yes.
is true.
Yeah.
That is true. I had a way more self-aggrandizing description, but yeah, that's pretty much what it is. No, I was really skeptical because I read a lot of stuff talking about how this movie was overrated. And especially if something wins Best Picture, let's just say I don't take the Academy's opinions to heart very often.
Well, it's not it didn't only win Best Picture, it is the most awarded movie of all time.
Yeah. And that's where I become a contrarian.
See, I agree with you. You can see here, I rated this very highly, but I totally agree that I don't think this should be the most award-winning movie of all time. I just don't.
I think a lot of that has to do with just where we're at in movies right now. I also think it might have
that's
a
good
lot.
way to put it. Yeah.
I think that's got a lot to do with it. But that is not to be said to take away from literally any aspect of this movie.
Yeah.
Because this is a damn good movie.
Oh, it's a masterpiece. It's a straight-up masterpiece.
I had this. So what happened was I was doing some work on my laptop in bed. Brittany was watching this. I wasn't paying too much attention to it, but every time I tuned in, something wacky was happening, and it felt like it was going to just be this like over-the-top, disjointed kind of mess.
Yeah.
And basically, my review is pretty short. I have to admit, I was skeptical of all the hype, especially post-Oscars. And although I'm still not sure if it's Best Picture quality, it's not. It is without a doubt a phenomenal, moving, and beautiful story about family, love, and that nothing but the moments we live and how we love them matters. That is what this movie is about at its heart, because I could not help but see the contradiction between Jobu Tupaki constantly saying nothing matters, and yet the main character, I can't remember her name. I remember Jobu Tupaki because Brittany just says it randomly around the house. She just randomly, since she first watched it, she just randomly goes Jobu Tupaki, or she will randomly start singing "Sucked into a Bagel," like just randomly. And so like those are the things that are drilled into my head. I'm also really bad with character names.
Me too.
I remember Waymond just because it's such a unique name. But basically, like
Husband, wife, daughter. That's what I remember. Husband, wife, daughter. That's what I remember.
Yeah, and so it's well, no, even the girl. Oh, I thought I knew the girl's name. Either way, it doesn't matter. I really expected this to just be overhyped because it's colorful, because it's flashy, because it might have some semblance of meaning to it. I went into this with the line from South Park, which is just because it's confusing doesn't mean that it's intelligent. Yeah. Or however that quote goes. That's what I was expecting from this. I was expecting Christopher Nolan took ecstasy, acid, mushrooms, and ketamine together. And that's what I was expecting from it. Yeah. And that's not what it is. The reason why they jump from scene to scene, or not scene to scene, but from environment to environment, universe to universe, it's all explained. It all makes sense. It all is understandable. And again, like I was saying before, it ties them all
together really well too.
Yes, it really does. As I was saying, I really could not help but notice that the more Jobu Tupaki says nothing matters, the harder the family is fighting to make everything stay together, to fix everything, because it's saying that those are the moments that matter. That what's happening now is what matters. Family is what matters. And I didn't take it even as like family, like blood family, like just, family in general. And so there's a lot of meaning here. There's a lot of really good writing. There's a lot of good fight scenes. There's amazing acting here. The whole thing is just fuck you good. It's that kind of good where you go, fuck you, Daniels.
I mean, this is everything everybody says it is. Like,
Yeah.
I went into it with the same mindset. Like, there's no way this is that good. Dude, this has been in theaters forever for a
Yep.
reason. Like, and everybody ought to see this movie. It's heartfelt. It's fun. It's full of action. It's just great. And it's everything everybody says it is. So,
Yep.
yeah. What did you rate this?
I rated it a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, as you
It's
should.
done-
If you look at
it's done-
this, look.
It's done perfectly. But you know, a perfect movie doesn't mean best picture.
Well,
But
yeah,
that's
for
just
sure.
my opinion.
Look at the ratings on it on Letterboxd
Yeah,
here.
dude. Yeah.
I think I read
Dipshit
somewhere.
gave it a 1.
I read somewhere this is the highest rated movie on Letterboxd. So, you know, it's it's damn good, and I
Yeah.
cannot believe the same people that made Swiss Army Man made this.
If you've ever seen the anime Paprika,
Yes.
that'll prepare you for this one.
Okay, yeah. All right, well, let's move on to my final watch then, which is Smile from 2022. I finally watched Smile. I think that this movie dominated at the box office for a very long time.
Dude, that picture makes me uncomfortable, man.
Oh, dude, me too.
Dude, that
'cause
makes me
I gotta
uncomfortable.
tell you, the girl that is in the cover, I was expecting her to be the protagonist as I watched it, and she's not. But she is the protagonist of the short that comes before this, called I think it's called Lauren Hasn't Slept. And
Dude, that looks actually scary.
well, and that's the thing, man. Is
I don't
the
get
short
to say that about horror very often.
the short is essentially about this girl seeing her therapist, and the therapist. Have you seen this?
No. Smile, no.
Okay.
I thought you were talking about the short film. I don't know why it took me a second to think about it, because it's literally no to both, but no.
Well, the short is essentially about a girl going to her therapist and saying, "Hey, I have been stalked by this thing, and sometimes it pretends to be other people, but it's always smiling." And essentially, she thinks she's going crazy, and so she hasn't slept for a very long time.
Dude,
if you have
that
seen,
premise is giving me anxiety, like for
Yeah.
real. There's like that. There's like that. I got goosebumps right now. That I have this image of just like smiling, like creepy smiling people, like in shadows and like dimly lit, like that.
so
There's something so uncomfortable about that.
I will say this: a lot of people say that this is just It Follows. Like, I don't know if you've seen It Follows, but it's kind of about.
I haven't, but
Oh, you own it and you haven't seen it?
I own it and I've never seen it.
Okay, well, It Follows. I won't say
I
too
thought
much
it was-
about that then.
I thought it was like a rape revenge
No.
movie, and
It Follows
so I
is
didn't-
kind of about.
because I can't watch those.
Nah, I don't blame you at all. Those are very like an acquired taste, and anyway, we'll move on.
Yeah, the way motor oil in a glass is.
So It Follows kind of has some subtext that is essentially the monster is kind of about STDs. And in the same way, Smile has subtext of it being about trauma. And so the monster is actually trauma. And so when you really start digging into the depths of what this movie is actually about, yes, it is similar to It Follows, but I do not think that they are the same movie or that this ripped it off. The
Well,
short,
luckily,
Laura,
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
the short, Lauren Hasn't Slept, sets up this movie in a really good way. And the protagonist of Lauren Hasn't Slept is the girl that you're seeing right here. And she,
So they did put her in this one?
they did, yes.
That's pretty
And-
dope that they did that.
And the way that this movie actually got made is actually really cool too. Just in a real quick side tangent, I think it was Universal. Is that right? Either way, whoever made this, I think it's Universal. But they saw the short and they offered Parker Finn to be able to make a full out movie based off the short, because the short
That's
is
really
so damn strong and the idea is so good. Now,
Yeah.
I will go ahead and read my review for Smile. It's kind of lengthy, but I had a lot to say about it. So the title I named it is Corporeal and Unsettling, which is a line directly out of the movie. Rarely do horror movies freak me out anymore, but from the get-go, this had me on the edge of my seat. I'd heard this was okay, but I think people are underselling this a bit, even though it dominated the box office. A lot of people really love this movie, but I've also heard that this is kind of meh because a lot of people think it ripped off It Follows. But since I really ended up liking Laura Hasn't Slept, I knew I had to watch this the second it was over. The core idea here is incredible, and the smile that Laura has is just straight up scary, which is this smile right here.
It's so unsettling.
It's so creepy.
It's really unsettling.
Yes, and this monster goes from person to person, and so the person whose skin it's wearing essentially always has that same smile. The core idea here is incredible, and the smile that Laura has is just straight up scary. This just felt really refreshing. I know. I see the influences too, but still, It Follows isn't exactly super original either. I'm not usually a fan of jump scares, but I must have been in the right mood or something because they really didn't bother me as much as they usually would in this. There's some CGI in here that's just terrible, but there's a reason I'm not rating it higher. I love the color palette. The pink that is absolutely everywhere in this is really unsettling in context, and it's not blue like seemingly every other horror movie has been lately. It just feels really natural, and the lighting they use is really bright and flat, almost like they're shooting a toothpaste commercial or something. Then really moody and dark other times, but it ties them both together really well in a really great juxtaposition. The music and sound effects do an amazing job building tension, and the cinematography is fucking great despite all the silly gimbal rotations. They do that fucking infinite loop thing over and over and over in this.
The vortex spin.
The vortex spin where they just spin the entire camera. It happens constantly. But the pacing is perfect, and I never felt like it was dragging at all. It's almost 2 hours. Blah, 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 blah. The script
is smart.
Yeah, the script is smart and dark and fun. It's not perfect and definitely has some issues, but I can look past most of them considering how strong the rest of it is. I love the way the mystery of what's happening unfolds, and it really gives cool context to Laura Hasn't Slept as well. All in all, this was much better than I was expecting, and I had a ton of fun with this. I think the whole world has already seen this, so I'm super late to the party here, but I'm really looking forward to what Parker Finn does next. It's crazy to me how low I see a bunch of the people I follow have rated this. People saying it loses focus, I think weren't just really into the whole mystery side of things, but I loved it. And so the cycle continues. Sure, It Follows may have done it first, but I enjoy this more. Bro, watch this movie. That's all I'm going to say more about this.
All right.
Watch this movie. This shit terrified me. There are moments in this where I was genuinely scared, and because of how much horror I watch, that is not something that happens a whole lot anymore.
I'm going to watch it tonight.
Yes, watch it.
Yeah.
I am super looking forward to what you think about this. I rated Smile an 8 out of 10. I loved this. It has some issues for sure. I can see where people are coming from, where they say it loses focus a little bit of the way through. The beginning is honestly probably the strongest part, and it kind of tapers from there. But I was on board with it the entire time. I loved it. It's creepy and fun. So.
Just cut it where I said I'm going to watch it tonight, and then just cut to me just...
just crying. No, I think you're gonna really like this. This has moments in it that are just genuinely freaky, so I'm looking forward to what you're gonna think about that.
Cool.
So that is the best stuff that we watched in March of 2023. Let us know if you've seen any of these movies. I would love to know what you think about some of our favorites here. If you like this, make sure you hit the like button. If you really liked it, make sure you hit the subscribe button because we got a lot more content like this on this channel. If you haven't caught on to what we're doing yet, we take these short little reviews and we turn them into shorts. So if you do not feel like... I'm saying this at the end of this video, so maybe that's a dumb idea to even say this, but we turn all of these small reviews into shorts, so if you're looking for some shorts to watch, maybe go check out the shorts on our channel. We also do other stuff as well. We have a ton of different full reviews on all sorts of stuff on this channel, so it would be awesome if you went and checked some of those out. Thank you for watching this and getting all the way to the end of it. If you did, let us know what you think about some of these movies down in the comments, and we will see you guys next time from the deep. Bye-bye.
Ta-ta.